All right, so Bill, you good? I know you keep walking away.
That is a great looking door.
Is he drinking off camera or like what's going on?
Yes, I am drinking.
Bill, come out of the closet.
I am here.
Whoa, hey, yeah.
Hey.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Consultants Saying Things. I'm Chris Lockhart, joined today by Bill Bensing, Phil Yanoff, and Shashi Sharmali, newly shorn. Looks very good, Shashi. I like that. Today we're actually we have an interesting conversation, an interesting topic, right? And there's this whole idea of basically getting work done, right? And we all have a lot to do. I know every one of us, we're very busy. There's travel, there's all sorts of meetings. And so I think there's really this question of, what are some tips? What are some topics that we could take away and give some advice to people on how do we manage our work and do it in a way where we can actually accomplish the things that we set out to do. Now, I know, Phil, you had some thoughts around this as sort of a topic area. Do you want to give us the 5 seconds on what this is?
I probably can't do it in 5 seconds, but I'm up for at least describing the problem. And I think it is, as you get into this gig, right, as you're out there doing work for others, I mean, the issue is, I think that we're always so connected that it's easy for our work to kind of just overwhelm us in a way where we think we don't know what we should be doing. Am I getting enough out of the day? Am I crossing off enough of the right boxes every day? And I think we just need some, for the person out there that says right now, you know what, I feel like I'm not getting enough stuff. I feel like I'm overwhelmed all of the time. How do I solve that problem? And I think that's kind of what we want to talk about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And I know if we were to put like the busiest person out of the four of us, it might be Shashi, because Shashi's, I don't know, you seem very busy, Shashi. Every time I talk to you, you're doing something different. I mean, do you buy into this idea that, we're not able to get stuff done and maybe we need to organize some stuff a little bit better?
There are two things. One is either you manage work or you let your work manage you. If you manage work, then you are able to balance things which you want to. And you are on top of things. But if you let your work manage you, then something got to give. Something, will not be right. You will be sad at the end of the day. So I think there are certain ways you can manage being on track and being more happy. But largely, I think you got to suck it up and, you just have to do what you have to do at the end of the day. It's like stop complaining and get your act together and get shit done. And definitely you can't keep everybody happy. Either your family is going to suffer or your work is going to suffer. So you got to pick and choose. It's all about making the choices.
There you go. That's the whole episode. Stop your whining.
Done.
Stop your whining.
But wait a second. Like you all right, look, I get the idea of like just put your head down and go do the shit that you have to do. But you brought up like you'll be sad, right? So there's now an emotional state. Why would I be sad, right? Is it because I'm not doing the right thing or I'm not happy with what I'm doing? Shouldn't you be addressing those things?
So my point is, if you feel you are being sad, then you have too much time in your hand that you are feeling. So I'm at a state where I don't even feel whether I'm sad or happy, right? I'm just getting shit done.
So you've solved the problem by having no emotions. You've gone the Vulcan route.
Who invited Spock to this show?
Emotions are highly overrated, sorry.
I know we do some profanity on here, but I'm going to let this one go because it's the name of a book. It's really about the art of giving a fuck. Great book, by the way, which comes down to, as you read it, a lot of people just give fucks about shit they shouldn't give a fuck about. So people who feel overwhelmed, and maybe Shashi, this is where you don't fall in, are doing things and caring about things that they shouldn't necessarily care about. Because I think about my plate, and Shashi, you're probably, Chris, you said Shashi's probably the busiest one on there. And we talk about work-life balance, so there's truly no balance. And I think what I do with my companies is, I have no balance. It's all company. There's rarely little personal time, but I'm okay with that. So a bit of what you're saying, Shashi, is like there's a level of what I'm okay with, but it's also that's what I give a fuck about, and I'm very clear about what I do and don't care about delivering. And I think that's where people get tripped up, is they start trying to deliver things what they shouldn't necessarily care about delivering. And then hence all the negative emotions, and then the negative spirals that all of a sudden you end up at a bar at 3:00 in the morning, halfway through a bottle of Maker's Mark, and you call yourself a consultant. So,
yeah. I mean, but wait a second, right? It's like, is that just bad time management then? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's commitment management. So the thing about time management is how much can you get done in 1 unit of time? And there's many ways to stack a lot of stuff into 1 unit at a time. It's, through managing teams. So I can get a lot of stuff done if I just source stuff out to a team, right? It may be I may be accountable for it, or I may be responsible for it, right? So you think about accountable versus responsibility. Where do you fit in that? So I can get that done, or it's something that I shouldn't bring on because it's just not beneficial for me or to deliver it, or I just say no. I think what sometimes, and this happens a lot, is even in the consulting world, you always want to say yes, yes, yes.
Is this just like I'm focusing on things that aren't high value, and I'm taking on too much?
Well, I mean, let me go back to Bill's point on the book. Mark Manson's book, right? The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Flip. That doesn't say that, but it's the subtle art, right? But Mark's point, and to a lot of people, is, it is super easy. I think it's particularly super easy in someone in a consulting role, right? We see ourselves as problem solvers. We're out there to solve people's problems. Every problem we see, and we're thinking, oh, I can fix that. We can write a little code. I could do this, or these guys over here know how to do it. And so the problem is we start stacking the plate up higher and higher and higher. And the list of stuff that we've got in our inbox to do is a little bit overwhelming. And that's the point where I turn on the episode of Consultants Saying Things and think, how the hell do I solve that problem of caring about the right stuff? And then once I do care about the right stuff, how do I hack my life in such a way that I get the most out of me to apply to the problems I care about most?
Well, so let's pick up on that thread then, and okay, let's go with the hypothesis that what you just articulated, Phil, that we are taking on too many things because we maybe have a high opinion of our ability to deliver stuff, right? And
sure.
we're taking on all of these problems that we believe we can solve. Let's say that that's true. Okay, Shashi, what is a hack? What do you do to manage that hopper of work that you have, that backlog of work that you have? How do you do that? How do you personally manage that?
So one is I live in the present. Second is I let work manage me. So it automatically prioritizes it. Second is you got to focus on not work-life balance. You got to focus on more on work-life integration. So those are the few things which I, genuinely believe will let you be happier and not worry about being sad.
Okay. I could look at this and say, Phil, my answer to this question is I just don't take those things on.
I think that's an important thing. And that's kind of where Bill was back on that piece too, which is we got to say no to an awful lot of stuff. At least in my role in the world, I have people asking me for things all of the time. And I have to be able to look at them, comfortably and say, you know what, that just doesn't fit into my list of priorities at the moment. I'd be happy to recommend Shashi because he's got plenty of free time and he's super calm about it. But just give it to Shashi instead. But as for me, I'm kind of full up.
But when you are working in a corporate environment, you get and Bill, Chris, you will understand this as well. When you're working within a corporate environment, you have to do your client job. You have to look at your practice. You have to look at growing your company. So there are so many other things. It becomes difficult at some point in time. Nobody likes to hear no, right? And the third archetype is people like Bill, who want to grow their own business. If they want to grow their own business, they don't want to say no to anything which will get them money. So they end up inherently taking a hell lot of more things. It's more archetypes. I think we got to look at archetypes and then see how we want to manage what you just mentioned, Phil. In your situation, it absolutely makes sense. But
Yeah.
in some situation like mine, can I say no? Yes, I can, but I don't know what are the implications of that is.
But I want to set myself up for 3 wins every day, right? I mean, I want to win the day. And I say that because if I don't, I'm the cat that's miserable because I'm the one who created a to-do list that I can't get around to. You know, if I could do, I mean, I love Shashi's point of view. Be in the present. You know, my work does. This is my work, and this is what I got to do, and I can only do the piece that's in front of me. My issue is not having a. You know, I don't want it to be a list that goes on forever in front of me.
Yeah, no. So there is I want to just pause on this and piggyback on what Chris mentioned. If you have met your goal, you did not set the right goals, right? So does your company want you to run a marathon at the speed of a 100-meter race that will lead to something we call burnout, which we are going to talk about it. So I don't know, like, if that is the right way to approach. Yes, you need a little bit of stretch goal, but you don't want your goal to be such that your athletes burn out and eventually they cannot even compete.
I almost see, coming from, between the corporate and the startup world, I look at there's 2 business models, which there's fundamentally 2 models to achieve goals. In a normal business, your business model, your product, you have product market fit. So now you're just trying to deliver to demand. Whereas in a startup model, there's a bunch of assumptions that you're trying to test. So the question I go back to asking people is what they're doing is what type of goals are the goals? Is there a very known situation for delivering your goal? Or is there very an abstract situation where you don't know, you just have to deliver something and you don't know how to deliver it and you need to take small incremental steps? Because as you think about the act of planning and some of the planning fallacies that go into place, if I'm planning for a production system for airplanes, I should be able to plan and hit goals. And then if I exceed them, get benefit for exceeding it because I have known constraints. Let's talk about the consulting world, and I see how it overlaps with the startup world is, I'm building these products. I don't know if they're going to work or not. I have little knowledge, and my goal is to get to the next piece of knowledge that tells me if I should continue forward or if I should go on to a different commitment. And so by saying at the end of the year, I've got to get my startup Clash to have 500,000 users and all this kind of stuff, like there's a lot in between before I can beg that. So when we say setting goals and trying to hack, are we trying to hack the wrong things because we're not coming from a premise of actually understanding what we're trying to achieve?
If I'm not setting those goals right, and I'm not processing my inbox, right, or my backlog, or managing that appropriately, I do end up sad, drinking too much at the holiday party, etc. Because I am not achieving the things that I laid out for myself. To Phil's point, right, I would rather have a list maybe of 3 things, and I do those 3 things. I get the dopamine rush. I feel good about it. I have a list of 40 things, and they're all top priority. I mean, you're not going to get there, right? So if you are trying to hit all 40 of those things, you end up in this burnout phase, which, by the way, I think, and Shashi, correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, but almost every consultant that I've ever met has hit burnout at some point. If it's not when they first start and they're expected to stay up all night and work on slides, right? Or work all weekend or not go home or all those things, at some point, it may not be the work, it may be the travel. I had a project in San Francisco for half a year and travel back and forth. It's only a 3-hour time change, but man, by that 5th, 6th month, I was hitting burnout just from travel alone, right? So I think there is this burnout. So if we progress from I'm not processing my inbox properly, I'm committing to too many things, I'm not getting shit done, I'm approaching burnout, what then is some advice? What is a tip to either deal with that or try to avoid it or manage it?
So get used to saying no, and it's easier to say no up front than saying no 5 weeks later. But humble yourself and do it that way. I mean, you have to set expectations. I believe people cause their own issues by not setting expectations.
But the reason why people can't say no is the fear of losing out on something, right? The moment people stop thinking about the implications, then it's easier for people to say no to things, especially within the corporate setup.
But why be so? I'll call that a rationality. If you have a fear of missing out for something you don't know, you're rational. And so why act irrational in that way? Like I'm going to miss out. Well, what are you going to miss out on? The possibility to have an opportunity. So it's the probability of a probability.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to something more concrete. Like, I'm done talking to you. Let's move on. Like, this is a waste of my time.
Yep.
So I know that's me personally, but maybe that's just too much of a hardline approach. But I also know I've been burnt by it many times, and maybe that's why I have my hardline approach.
No, it's a mindset problem, not a problem. Like, it's a mindset situation. People got to, I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying, but does not mean I'll be able to do what you are able to do.
Again, it was that bit of wanting to be helpful. So I show up all the time. I say yes to stuff, but towards where Bill is headed with this, I mean, we need to figure out how to say no. So I have a Star Trek inspired hack for saying no. So I know that there's always room for that kind of wisdom on a place like this. And it was, I really got this from the second Star Trek movie. And the thing is, a lot of times, and this is particularly when I was freelancing, doing small client work or whatever, and they would ask me to do something, and I really didn't want to do the work, but I knew better than just to say no to them. So what I would do is I would do this quick mental calculation of what I thought it would cost, then what I thought it would cost to have somebody else do it, and then I would multiply it by 4, right? So I just quadruple it, and then I said, well, this is the price. Because in my thinking, it was, as a freelancer, I said, well, hell, if they say yes to this, I can pay someone else to do it, and I'm still okay with it, right? I just don't have to go through all the trouble. And that's exactly what would happen. I would say yes, but I would say multiply it by 4, and occasionally a crap job would just fall off the plate because they just weren't equipped to put that into it. But sometimes they said yes, and I would just go give it to Bill and let Bill do it. And then, just Bill invoice for it. Worked out perfectly. So just like Scotty always multiplied the time it took to fix a thing times 4. That's what I would do.
I guess I'm at a place where I'm okay saying no to things, and I don't. It wasn't like a conscious like I have to evolve my thinking. It was just sort of like, well, shit, I don't have time to do that.
Right.
So, no. Right.
Yeah, that's that looks like a lot of work. That's the other thing. And someone says, oh, we ought to do this. I said, that looks like a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know that that's a life hack. I think that's just like you need to make choices, right? And I think this for me it falls into the live to work versus work to live kind of mental model. And I work to live, right? So that was my conscious choice that I made, and that guides as a guiding principle. That sort of in my decision tree, right? Do I have time to do this? Is in that tree, but kind of starts with like, does this fit into my life right now, right? Yes or no, right? And if the answer is no, I don't have to process the rest of that tree. I know that maybe I'm an outlier when it comes to consulting, because I know a lot of folks, whether they admit it or not, they really work to live or live to work.
Yeah.
Bad one. Yeah, that one. Right. Yeah. They live to work, right? Because it's like, listen, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to make partner by 30. I'm going to, do all of these wonderful, amazing things. I'm going to be in consulting magazine, or I'm going to do whatever. And it's sort of like, okay, look, that's great. That's just not the choice that I made. So my life hack for that would be say no, right? I love the idea, Bill, of like, once you've said yes and you realize, shit, I can't do this, back out. There's nothing, because what are you going to do? Not deliver it. You're not going to look pretty good, right? Deliver something that's shit because you didn't have time to do it. That's also not very good. So why not take the honest route and be like, look, I miscalculated, or whatever you come up with, and get out of it, because man, you really don't want to be in that situation where, the things due Monday and you haven't started it yet.
So it's a recent experience. So we're working on some deal where we have been told, we have been pushed by our client to say that, you can do business architecture within 1 to 2 weeks. You can do application architecture within 1 week. You can do integration within 1 week, data within 1 or 2 weeks. So in 6 and 7 weeks, they want us to define their whole enterprise architecture. Then that's where, like, he saw my face, completely blank. And I said, see, it can't be done. Internally, when I was talking to our partners, and I said that I don't think I can do it. There may be somebody else who can do this, but I don't think I'm the right person to do it in such a time frame. Part of two reasons. One is I will end up killing myself. Second, I'm most likely going to produce a shitty stuff which will be of no value to the client. So I do not want to agree to that.
Right.
And that's something which I said internally, and client kind of told me that, hey, Shashi, you are being a purist. I said, this is not being a purist. This is being a pragmatic on what is the art of possible. You want me to create an architecture which doesn't become a shelfware, is something which can be used. But if you want that to happen, this is the time I need.
No, but I mean, so like that. Look, for people at this point in their career within a consulting firm, I think that's a completely legitimate life hack, right? Learn to say no internally, or that you're not the right person. If you
Right.
are a brand new analyst, right, you're 22 years old or whatever at Price Waterhouse, and you say, I don't think I'm the right person
Suck it up.
for this gig, right?
Suck it up. Suck it up. For them, the life hack is suck it up, do it, burn your midnight candle for a few weeks or a few months, and then you will know. You yourself will figure out what is your life hack.
But I think we're getting on two different threads here from what I feel. I feel like if there's an opportunity, you don't have to be. What's that Richard Branson quote that's attributed to him? Like, if you don't know how to do it, just say yes and then figure out how to do it as you deliver it. So there's that, stretching yourself, and then there's stretching yourself when you know you're stretching yourself, but then also being very cognizant not to overcommit to whatever the side effects is to feel bad or whatnot. Like, I think those are two different threads though, and they're different hacks for that, right? So like what Phil's going through is like he's just making sure he doesn't overcommit. What you're talking about in one aspect is like, can I stretch myself? Like, I know my commitments, so I understand my bounds. Is this something I'm willing to stretch or like balloon a bit of my bounds for to try to deliver?
Well, so Bill, what do you do? How do you avoid burnout? And it is a family show, so like don't mention any medications that you may be taking to keep up.
I got to stay physically active, so it's either working out or walking. I walk almost every day, almost 4 miles. It's nice being in Florida because I walk on the bayfront, so it's nice. But when I'm walking, it takes me about an hour. So I'm reading emails, I'm doing things in the morning, but I start that at roughly 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm back in my apartment by about 5:15, 5:30, and then start my day. So as I look at try not to burn out and do things that sort of keep me balanced, but I also try not to overcommit. I have a lot of people asking me to do things. I've got a media company. Can't tell you how many people come to me to try to get videos, and I told them right now, I was like, I just don't do it. Phil, I start out with your approach, charging 4 more until somebody says, well, okay, we'll pay that. They had no clue what the market charged, and they just wanted me to do it. So I found a freelancer and pushed them their way. So it's one of those deals where I don't avoid, it goes through fits and bouts of burnout, but I think part of it is, understanding where I can balloon and where I can't balloon.
This brings up a really good point. I don't want to lose this thread, which is basically, what you just talked about was what works specifically for you, right? Mm-hmm. And so my question then is, are there in fact archetypes? Are there patterns, or is this a individualistic, like you have to know you, go do you, right? And it's up to you, and we can't give any advice because it's all up to the individual person.
I would agree with that. There are multiple dimensions. This is not a simple problem to solve. It's a multi-dimensional problem. First dimension is which stage of a career. First few dimension which I can think of is which stage of career you are in. That's number one. Second dimension is what kind of personality you are. Are you a proactive? Third is what are your priorities in terms of your work life, and are you living to work or working to live? And there are many more dimensions which comes into play. And I don't think there is a right or wrong answers. Everybody can share their archetypes, and then what are their life hack, and for others to consume and use. If they are closest to that archetype, they can follow that advice or guidance. If not, they will have to figure out their own and create their own archetypes.
Like I'll give you one that I have, right, which is, people often cite travel as part of the burnout, right, of what causes the burnout. And so, like, I've gone to great lengths to make my travel the least intrusive on my sleep, on my behavior, on my all of those things, right? And so I streamline my travel times to the point where I know precisely when to leave the house or the client to get to the particular airport on a particular day. and I flow right through, oftentimes, right through TSA pre-check or global services, global entry type areas, and flow right and go straight to the gate, and they're boarding and go right on the airplane, so that I'm not like sitting in an airport, because it just drains the life out of you, or it does for me, right? So that's something. I don't know that that's an archetype, but I put it under sort of a pattern. Travel is a thing that causes burnout, right? When you start out in this journey, right? Yeah. The expectations for when you will be at a client site, right, oftentimes requires you to be there at 8 o'clock Monday morning, right? And so for a lot of folks, that means like a 3 a.m. wake up, right, on a Monday morning, so that by Monday afternoon you're mentally dead. And you're providing no value whatsoever.
Totally unproductive. That's the worst thing you can ever do. Totally unproductive.
Mondays are a waste of time. Yeah, Mondays can be a waste, right? And so I look at it as, if it's my engagement, does it make sense to kill yourself to be there on a Monday? Because oftentimes the client, by the way, they've got their own stuff going on a Monday morning that they have to deal with. So you don't need to be there. And so I think it's a question of like managing that travel, if that's a category of sort of this burnout stuff.
No, I agree. That's a category, and second category is how do you manage your work itself? How do you plan it better? That's another category. Third category is your weekends or personal time. How much you want your work to invade in your personal time? Yeah, so I think we are on the right track. I can see a framework evolving. Of course, a consultant not having a framework is stupid. I can see it evolving, but do we have it now? Probably not. It calls for a book or a white paper on that, which we can collaborate and write.
About frameworks, I think of it more as a meta model, because what you're talking about is a tactic.
Oh my God.
It's a giant pen.
It's enormous. Little indulgences, but what I was thinking with like the meta models is like, as you're talking about, I'm thinking about certain things I do. That's a huge fin. Is like I get every Sunday I cook 5 pounds of chicken. And so that way I don't have to think about eating food at all for the lunch. So like I find ways, like when I get up, like my breakfast, my lunches, and to a large degree, my dinners are already planned out. And I've been frankly for 5-7 years eating the same thing to a large degree, but it's healthy, it's balanced, it's vegetables, and it's chicken. Like, even as I'm in the corporate world, like I have a Monday through Friday suit, like that's it. That I don't think about anything else there. I don't think about what else to wear. It's the same thing every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday. I try to figure out how, like, the small decisions that can take up a lot of time, I try to figure out how to just get rid of those decisions. Lunch, that's not necessarily important what you're eating for lunch in general. Clothes, what you wear, that's very contextual, but I would almost argue that 95% of the time what you wear can be very standardized.
Warren Buffett.
Yeah. He talks about the things like he wears like the same blue suit and white shirt every day, and he's done for 40 years.
So I get it, right? That's about standardization and automation, really, if you think about it, right? And automating those small tasks so that you're not wasting a whole bunch of time doing that. But I'm gonna take a contrarian perspective on that one, right? Which is, I have to spend quality time taking my time eating a nice dinner, right? Or not even a nice dinner. Just it's about the time spent doing it. That's my decompression time, right? Yeah. Shashi, you remember when we worked together, right? I'm very particular about my French fries, right? And so it's like, yeah. I have to do that because
ask him about the bagels. Ask him about bagels. That's the real issue.
Let me tell you about bagels. We'll talk about that some other time.
You can insert the video here.
We'll insert the video here. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But to your point, though, you can't look at hacks as an archetype. You look at all these little tactics, and it's based on what you care about, what things you like, depends on what tactic you put in. Me, I could really care less about my dinners and my lunch. I just need to be delivering something. So, it's your tactic and my tactics will differ. And
so the tactics are going to be different, but the strategy was the same. And the strategy is protect the asset. And in this case, protecting the asset is, what do I need for mental and social well-being in order to recharge the battery so that I can expend it on behalf of my client, right? So I'm rebuilding the energy however I need to do it. I mean, for those of us who deciding what we're going to eat or what we're going to wear is a heuristic load, then for that, we just we automate it, right? And I automate that. I automate my clothes and all that. I don't think about what I'm going to wear much during the day. I've laid them out ahead of time so that that's not my thing during the day. But I get it. If I want to eat a decent meal or with friends or whatever. And that's how I, again, recharge the battery so I can spin it back out tomorrow. And that's what I got to do. And so each of us has to figure out what that is for us. I think, by the way, a thing that we've not talked about is how a lot of our productivity is lost to distractions. And I'm going to guess that we've all got hacks among us on how we reduce the distractions in our life.
Yes, I have my distractions, right? But what I am coming to appreciate is my distractions allow my subconscious or whatever to actually continue working on whatever the problem is at a given time. And I find I'm actually better at solutioning things when it's like, okay, I got to think about this problem, but what's going on LinkedIn, right? And then, an hour later, like I got it. This is what we need to go do. Like, it's like that. There was a guy I worked with, Dave Baker, who he always used to call it like that. I got to noodle over this a little bit, right? I got to think about this for a little while. And it's like, I have a problem. Maybe it's personality type. I have a problem like actively thinking about things. Yeah, whiteboard, okay, etc. But like, I've got to like subconsciously process some stuff before I can articulate things.
Right.
Really.
Well, but that's part of the process as well. I don't know if that was exactly the same thing I was trying to get at, but that's part of the process, giving yourself that empty space, the white space in your day so that your brain, I've got a couple stories I tell that people ask me about, how did you come up with this idea or that idea? And it is remarkable to me that both of these came out of the shower. And they, a lot of people say that the reason people think so well in the shower is the process is largely automated. We've done it many, many times. We kind of do it the same way every time. We don't think about it, but our body is engaged and our brain can then just kind of wander around on whatever project we're working on.
Yes. So another thing is, in today's world, I don't think having distraction is necessarily a negative word or a negative thing, because you got to live with it. All the millennials or Gen Zs, whatever you want to call them, they are born with all these distractions. And in my workplace, I had, people from old school who kind of don't like that distractions. But guess what? They are productive if they are able to do what they are asked to do with all those distractions. Then I don't think that's a problem. You got to learn how to manage such people. It's not only like getting rid of those distractions. Learning to live with those distractions is the way to go.
Is it now?
But
is it now? I mean, I don't need to figure out how to turn that off. I mean, it just makes me crazy. All of this stuff, right?
So Phil, that's perfectly fine. I mean, as I'm saying, you are old school.
Yeah.
In today's world, I'm
just going to toss him in slow pitch and underhand, Shashi. You knock him out of the park, okay? Here it is. Boom. Pow! Hey, old dude, if that's what you want, sit over there with your paper and your coffee in the morning.
I know.
I got it.
Well, this is their coffee. This is their coffee.
Yeah, side note of that millennial thing, I think it's a bit of both. Like, all generations need to learn how to manage each other from both sides. And so some millennials sitting there on their phone needs to understand the respect that's derived when they're on their phone, even though they're paying attention. What's derived on their phone versus, that kind of stuff. That's contextual. And I think frankly, as people mature, millennials mature through their career, a lot of that tends to dissipate. Hopefully, I don't know, you guys could probably correct me on that one.
They will figure out how to manage. I think it's a culture which is going to evolve. I don't think it will ever stop.
Yeah,
I'll put it this way.
I look at distractions like Erlang looks at failures. And now this is a whole technical podcast. Maybe this is getting too technical, but Erlang is all about failures. It has something called an actor model that openly promotes failing, and it says things are going to fail. Therefore, we're going to deal with them as failures and not try to avoid them or not try to throw some other error elsewhere for somebody else to handle. We're going to deal with the error. So I look at distractions like that. Like me, I'm a highly distracted individual. Chris, I'm like you. Sometimes I just got to noodle on something for like a week. But I do know ahead of time, like if I got a noodling week, I know that 50% of my time I'm going to deliver something, but 50% of the time is not going to make sense to somebody else observing me. And so I think people have to be like, some of you guys are getting there. It's like you have to be open to distractions, but you have to plan for distractions too and put some hard bounds around it. So you can't say I'm not going to be distracted, because that's completely, that's impossible. You just got to say, here's the allotted time I'm going to allow for distractions, and here's how I'm going to handle the distractions, and then go forward.
We have so much to do. We have so much on our plate that that we have, if I add distractions on top of that, right, it's like one more thing that I don't have time to be doing. And oh, by the way, it's maybe the lowest value work I can do, and some higher value work lower on the list is not getting done. So I mean, I can see
a loaded statement, though. That's one, assuming that distractions aren't inherent in what you're doing by trade. So frankly, just admitting to what you're doing, admitting to what's happening is the first step, like the first of the 12 steps, right? And then and then the second one is like high value work. So who says distractions are not high valued? If you're a knowledge worker, and what's based upon what you're doing is connecting dots that aren't really easily connectable, and the fact that a distraction allows you to go out and start connecting certain dots, like, is that not value added?
And these things are situational, obviously, right? It's hard to say, with absolutism, do this, don't do this. But there's an optics thing here too, right? So if you are at a client and you are sitting at the client and you are doing things that the client sees as distractions, well, meanwhile, they're getting a bill for, however many millions of dollars
an hour.
Right, exactly.
That is the thing. So that is the difference, fundamental difference. Are you charging your client based on hours, or are you charging your client based on the outcome, or a finite defined managed work? So there is a fundamental difference between these two.
Well, and that comes into play, right, Shashi? Because again, going back to, I have 40 things on my list because I said yes to everything, right? If it's a fixed fee sort of thing, and I'm going to deliver everything by May 31st, now maybe I have a problem because I can't do that either. I've said I'm going to go do it, but I can't do it because there's not enough time. Now I got to add people and reduce my margin. That's a problem. If you're doing it by hours, it's actually still kind of an optical problem because now it's like the client's looking at it. The bill keeps going up. What are you doing? Oh, you're,
Farmville.
Yeah, Farmville. Whatever. Plants versus zombies, right? Let's bring this back around, right? Which is, people that are sitting out there, that, as Phil likes to say, the cat sitting out there, right, listening or watching, right? I mean, what are some of those things that we need to do to avoid that list getting so big? And also, if the list is big, how do we avoid that burnout so that we're not delivering crap or not delivering it at all?
Start saying no to the things which you think you cannot do. Step back and think about yourself, who you are, what you want to accomplish. Is it you who are managing the work, or is it the work which is managing you? So you need to figure those things out. And saying no to things is the way to go. It's very hard within a corporate environment as compared to if you are entrepreneurial. So that's the biggest thing. And second thing is, I agree, like limit the amount of distractions what you have so that you can focus on what you're trying to do and get things done within the committed time.
Plan your meta model, like actually take on an effort to say, what should I be doing tactically to make sure that I become more happy? It sounds weird, but work towards that and make that a goal. And then all of these hacks, they'll come out themselves, whether it's putting 4 hours, multiplying it by 4, like Phil says, or whether it's something like me cooking, a whole week of food at one time on Sunday.
For me, I take it, and again, this is maybe, again, it's not really a hack. It's just sort of, I've evolved to this position of, what am I doing? I'm trying to live a life here, right? So, what do I need to do to live that life? What do I need to do to deliver the things that I said I was going to do? So, it's not even saying no to things. It's not even considering a lot of things, right? Like, I'm just not even going to have a conversation about an extra thing because I know it doesn't fit into what I have planned out.
You need a framework for making decisions about what is going to be included in your life and what is not going to be included in your life. Last year I went through and read the book Essentialism, Greg McCune's book. And he presents that there's 2 questions you should be asking yourself every day. And one is, am I proud of the professional decisions and activities I was involved with today? And am I proud of the personal decisions that I made today? And if I can lay those out every day and kind of look back at my life, then eventually I'm going to kind of maneuver everything else into the spot where it's doing for me what I want it to do, right? I will be leading the life I want to live, and I won't be being held to account on something that I didn't want to do. So I think that's a good hack. Am I doing the important stuff and ignoring the rest of it?
Thank you for the time. Bill Bensing, Phil Yanoff, Shashi Shromali without the beard, looking good. I'm Chris Lockhart. Thanks for watching. And by the way, go to the YouTube channel or find us at www.consultantsayingthings.com. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.